So, one of the things I was asked lots is, how do I tie up my horses? Well, there's lots of ways of tying them. I ain't saying any way is wrong or right. There's the way we like to do it. And there's other ways we found that don't work quite as well. One of them I found didn't work as well as they told me it was going to, was the one they called the bank robber's knot. That's the one where you fold it in half, lay it over the rail, take the middle piece, the tail here, and you drop it down through there, and you come around, go over the top and underneath and over top and pull it through here, and then pull the slack. And that makes your bank robber's knot. And the object of it is, you just give it a tug and it all comes apart. You have to put your tail in so it don't come undone accidentally. What I found with this one though is the horses, if they play with it at all or move around much, it comes loose and it just falls off. Poop. And we ended up with horses walking around the yard all the time dragging a halter shank. So I kind of quit that one. One of the ones we use if we're tying up horses that might have a chance to pull, or we're still training or whatever, is a bowline. And that one's pretty simple. You have your tail end here, and you have your shank that goes to your horse. The shank that goes to your horse, you fold it so it's under, like so. This is the piece that goes to your horse. You make a loop and you make sure it's folded under. And this piece here becomes your rabbit, they call it. And he comes out of the hole, up from underneath, goes around the tree, that's the piece that goes to your horse, right? And then goes back down the hole. Now this knot, no matter how hard they pull on that, you can always pull it forward and get it undone. That's the object of it. It's not a bad knot to tie. The only real trick to it is you got to watch your fingers. If you've got a horse that's a halter puller or one that you're training and he might fly back, you got to keep your eye on it because you have your fingers are quite a lot involved in this knot, and you don't want your fingers to get caught in there. I've seen that happen a time or two. We've got a sister and a brother-in-law with bangled up fingers from tying bowline, so that's one of the objectives of it I don't like. Other than that, it's a pretty good knot. The one we use the most often though, we call it the halter shank knot, and it's pretty simple. It just goes around, tucks in from underneath, and you pull on it. Then you pull the tail through. And that one there, the only objection to it, if you have a halter puller that really gets down and at it and halter pulls, they can pull a knot tight enough, it can be a bit of a bugger to get undone. But on average, you just pull the tail out and it comes undone. Now if your horses are halter broke, which mine mostly are, this really isn't a bad knot. You just go around it like so. You come in from the back side and pull through. If you got lots of extra tail, you can pull it through and pull it through, and that gets rid of it a little extra. Or if you have a lot, you can pull it through, and they call it ringing it, and that gets rid of a lot more tail. But on average, to tie this one is pretty simple. You just go all the way around and go in from behind here and pull it through. And your fingers aren't involved in the knot much. It's easy to tie. It's easy to untie. And it's the one we use the most. That said, the second most common one we use, and we train a lot of horses, is the bowline knot. And that's the one that has the piece that goes to the halter underneath. You come up, and you can do it left-handed or right-handed, it don't matter. Right, and there's your bowline knot. And then the bank robber knot, which I guess some guys enjoy using it, but what I found is my horses would fool around and get it undone. And then they'd be wandering around, and that kind of defeats the purpose of tying them up. But this is your typical bank robber's knot. And the object of this one is when you pull on it, it comes completely undone and comes right off. But like I said, I don't recommend it for that particular reason. Now, one of the other things someone who's asking me is, what halters do we use the most of? Well, this is your typical halter, draft horse halter. It's 1 1/8", I believe they call it, or 1 1/4" wide. It's not the most expensive one on the market, but this halter here is probably 12 years old and has trained a couple of colts, and then they wore it, and it hasn't been too detrimental. Reason I like it is one piece on top. You can just put it up over the horse's head, and then you can snap the throat latch. Whole snap should turn in, right? Snap the throat latch. That's the one I like. The one I don't particularly care for, where's that one, Brad? Right here. There's these ones that you got to buckle over the top. There's no snap on the throat latch. So you got to catch your horse by the halter shank. Then you got to unbuckle this thing and then chase around and put it over the top. Reach around over the top, get a hold of it to buckle it up. There we go. Oh, that doesn't seem like much of a pain. Well, it is, and you got 20 or 30 to catch like we do. So we have some. We end up with horse trading and whatnot. But it's not a halter I recommend to anybody. I prefer these ones with a snap. And I've had guys say, oh, well, I keep breaking the snap. Well, then you've got halter pullers and halter broke. We have some leather halters. I have some pretty good leather halters. I kind of like them. I'm a leather man myself. And it's the same way. It's got the buckle on top and the throat latch, so you can put it on and snap it. One of the things I see though, and this is particularly a useless adjustment here, is to have this here. Honestly, if your halter's sized to fit your horse, if that's for a 2,400 pound horse, this will be set on a regular halter to the right size. You don't need an adjustment down here. There's just more junk, more stuff to tangle up, more of a pain in the ass to fix. So we prefer these ones. They're all one piece. These are inexpensive. I think they're like $22 or something. These here are about $95. And these here are junk, and they're about a $12 halter. So there. Somebody was asking about tying up horses and what kind of halters and stuff I use. We have a rope halter there. It's right there, Brian, on the ground on the corner. Some guys swear by these. But in all honesty, a rope halter is only a fan for those that like inexpensive. A rope halter is inexpensive. If somebody steals it on you when you're on a trail ride or a wagon train, you don't get too wound up over it. Some guys get all freaked out if you tie the knot up here. Some guys prefer the knot tied down here, over top of the loop here. Now, ideally, they say that's the proper way to tie them. But most of the time, at least 80% of the time when I see them, they're tied in a knot up here. And the only issue about that is if they pull back on it, they can get that tight enough you can't get it undone. Supposedly, if they pull back on it when it's tied around the loop here, you can always get it undone. Myself, I don't particularly like rope halters. They give up and wear out real quick. Some of my halters have lasted me 20 years or more. I have yet to see a rope halter that's more than about 5 or 6 years old. And then, you know, most of them come with a shank that's kind of tied on. Most of ours, the shank is snapped on so that we can undo them when we're putting our collars on. We put our collars on over our heads, so I prefer to have that snap there. So there, that's my whole spiel on halters.